Hey, everybody. We are live and I'm getting a little feedback. I don't know whose that's on. If I can get everyone to mute, maybe. There we go. Oh, man. I was so nervous in my soul. Anyway, thank you again for joining us. I really appreciate it. I'm Joe from Solution Point Plus, and we've been doing these Saturday episodes weekly now. I think this is number 8 now, and we've been getting incredible feedback on it. So we just want to continue providing some type of content. Although I'm hearing that people are getting content fatigue now. Oh, I just don't even know what to do with myself. But what else are we going to do? I know we can go outside, but this is the beauty of the world we live in: is you can take your phone with you and check in and listen to this wherever you are. So um, I know we are getting Elizabeth. Hello. For those of you watching, please, you know how it goes. Just leave your statements, your comments, your questions on the Facebook channel, Solution Point Plus LLC, and I'll bring those up live into the show and we'll address them. I'm very excited that it is Memorial Day weekend, and I have 3 incredible veterans. I guess 4 with Jesse, 5 with me. We're all veterans, but I'm super excited about the panel of 3 that we have today in Jen Volbrick, Travis Winfield, and Chris Cancialosi. Cancialosi. Yes, Chris Cancialosi. And we'll talk a little bit about them. We'll introduce them. And I want to start with Travis. So I'm going to do an overview. Travis Winfield is with the Travis Winfield Group. He's in the Navy, and he joined back in 92. He's been all over the world, even to hometown of Italy. And while he was he became a real estate agent in the state of California in 2011. And then he retired in 2016 from the Navy. And now he is still full-time in the Navy. And he's also doing podcasting. He's running veterans leadership groups. He's staying very involved in the community. And I'll let him expand on that. Next up is Chris Cancialosi, who has been an incredible personal friend, mentor, really a significant part of my life personally. We have frequent check-ins, and it really means a lot to me to have his relationship and his guidance and his mentorship, because we're still relatively new at what we're doing, and he's established in this industry. And so Chris he's a PhD. He was in the Army, commissioned as an officer. He was a Black Hawk pilot, multiple tours overseas to Iraq and Afghanistan. And he has very diverse experience in the private industry as well, with some pretty well-named companies like JetBlue and the like, and Google, and now he runs a organization called Gotham Culture, which focuses on organizational culture, and he is just a pioneer in that space, and really beneficial, again, to our personal success that we have. And so I'm really grateful that he's on the show. And then Jesse, why don't you introduce Jen for us?
Oh, absolutely. So what's really cool about doing this is we get to show everybody just the caliber of people that we know. Like, I'm super proud to know all of you, and to kind of learn from all of you, right? And the cool part about Jen, more than anything, right? She's a Marine, so hoorah there. But her background is like a lot in aviation and project management. She was a helicopter crew chief, a flight engineer. She was freaking a door gunner on a helicopter. And now she works as a project management consultant. She's working in her firm. She works in government contracts, doing really cool things. She's a project management professional from the PMI. She's got really cool BS and MBA in the aerospace world, and now she's even working on her PhD. So she's kicking ass and taking names. She's done a lot of things in the nonprofit world as well, giving back to the community. She is vice president for a nonprofit that helps veterans who are in the justice system. And she's also even been published a story in a book called Paper Dolls, which is just stories about women who have served. So we're really excited to have her, and proud. So thank all of you for joining us.
Is there anything, is there anything that you guys would like to add that we have not mentioned?
No, guys, just really happy to be here and join you on your show.
Yeah, right back at you, man. Yeah, that's really appreciate you having us on. You know, I think we've built some great connections through some mutual organizations, but yeah, really happy to be here, guys.
Likewise, yes, I'm very proud to be in all your company.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So now that everyone that's viewing knows who you are and learn a little bit about you, now we're really going to get into the meat and potatoes of this. So a lot of these episodes that we've been doing have kind of had this centered theme about what's going on in the world. And now that things are opening back up, we're going back to normal, I think we can get into more versatile content and people can really get stuff from these conversations. And particularly this group they're all veterans and they're all entrepreneurs. So we're really going to dive into that. So let's go ahead and get into it. Some common things to think about. What was the most challenging thing for you starting out when you started your business, when you kind of got into this world? What were some of the biggest challenges you faced and why? How about you, Chris? We'll start with you.
Yeah, great question, Jesse. I think the biggest challenge for me was not knowing what we didn't know. So, you go into entrepreneurship. For me, it was coming right off of active duty. No real risks to me doing it, but having a lot of confidence and a lot of energy, and just not realizing what I was getting into. So it was a lot of learning. I like to joke with folks, I have the most expensive MBA in the world. I've made a lot of big mistakes, cost me a lot of money and a lot of opportunity. But the good thing is I learn really fast. So I've been fortunate to be in business for about 15 years and grow my companies and be able to weather the current storm of disruption that we're in right now. So I think really just not knowing what you don't know. And my advice would be to get, if you can get advisors, coaches, people who can kind of mentor you through that process to help you avoid making some false assumptions before you get into it is probably would be my one piece of advice for your listeners.
I love it, Chris. And it reminds me of, a lot of what we talk about obviously surrounds all things mental health and wellness. But when we talk specifically about the growth mindset and what you just mentioned, I read something earlier that says, don't be afraid of what could go wrong. Instead, get excited about what could go right. And it's almost taking that, just that naive leap of, well, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but you know what, I'm going to go figure it out. And I think having a growth mindset is so important when you're talking about entrepreneurship or transitioning from one career to another, because you have to really be open to every opportunity that's coming your way. And again, not looking at things as failure is just learned opportunity. So thanks for sharing that. Next up, let's do Jen. You ready?
Yep, I'm ready. All right. So for me, it was overcoming fear. So I had my business idea for like 10 years, seriously. But I had my business idea and then I started having children. And so we started, buying houses, raising kids. They started going to school, and I start thinking, shoot, I have to provide for these people. They're depending on me to make a living, right? And so last year, so I'm 13 months into my business venture, jumped off the cliff. I quit my job, fully started consulting, and was immediately I was billing my own billable hours, so I was immediately profitable. But it took a whole year of me writing in my journal daily, you were born for this. You are smart enough. You have hustle. And just trying to encourage myself. Everybody else believed in me. So about 6 months into the journey, I was having like a pinch yourself moment. And I asked my husband, like, are you surprised that it's going so well? And he's like, no, not at all. And but I just continue to tell myself that you've got the hustle. And especially when the world shut down, I had to continue to write in my journal every day and encourage myself to get over my own fear.
Wow, that's really good for a few different reasons. So one, it resonates with Joe and I because we're kind of caught between two worlds. We have our career, and then we have everything we're doing here. And it pulls us in different directions. And I know for Joe especially, what's kind of held us back from fully diving into it and committing to it completely has been just that fear, because we have people that depend on us, right? We're going to get into mindset a lot later on, but I love the fact that you're actually journaling. Joe's really big on that. He teaches that, and you're reminding yourself, right? So that's an excellent tool. And then probably one of the biggest things that anyone can have is someone supporting you. And then when you make it, that person believed in you all along. So that's really, really cool that you have that. Travis, what about you?
Well, I think my biggest issue, guys, was quite frankly the fact that I was institutionalized, right? I did 24 years in the Navy, and when you spend more than half your life doing one thing in the military, when you get out, you Chris was saying, you don't know what you don't know. So I think for me, the most challenging is that when you get into business, and I made the leap to go all in my business. I was doing it part-time. I was in active duty, but then to go all in, gosh, I think the biggest fear for me was financially, because I tell you what, I'm actually absolutely like terrible when it comes to understanding finance. And I was like, for the last 4 years, been learning through a fire hose. And it was the challenge that the military, and I stand up, I'm a big advocate of this. The military has a lot of amazing things, but the one thing that we are not good at is teaching financial health to our active duty military. So I was victim to that. I was the top of the world in the military. I get out, and then now I am trying to build a business, and I don't hardly know what P&L stands for. But I am a firm believer in this, that successful people surround themselves by people who do great at what you suck at. So what I did is I surrounded myself by a lot of people who did just that. So I have a bookkeeper now, a CPA, a financial advisor, and that they really helped me build. And then of course I surrounded myself by mentors who've already been there, done that, and it allowed me to get through that challenge. And now we've gotten things humming along pretty well.
Really good stuff. And you're right. And so many of us are institutionalized, especially in the military. And for many of us, just growing up, it isn't part of our high school education, right? They're not teaching these things. I remember in the Marines, they had these like learning books that you learn, and it had this topic about, credit or financing, but it was something you did as like an E1 or E2 because you wanted to make E3, but it really wasn't any substance there. So that's a really, really big thing to learn. Joe and I have been going through the crash course on that ourselves. Probably what I should have started with, because these questions are kind of interrelated. Why even do this? What made you guys make this transition? Why did you choose to take on the world in this way? Why take the risk? There's a lot of people that have kind of negative things to say about entrepreneurship, or some people that have an interest in it, but just won't make the commitment because they're, like Jen said, they're afraid. What made you take the plunge? As you said, Jen, like, why did you jump off the cliff? We'll start with you, Jen.
Well, it has a lot to do with, I guess, knowing myself and knowing what makes me wake up in the morning, what keeps me up at night, and it's passion. I hate being held back. I hate being told no, all those things. So I felt like in my corporate career, like I had the potential to be held back all the time, or I was always, off trying to do my own thing and people are trying to rein me back in. So I knew I was born for it. And the other day I had another pinch yourself moment. I was with a team of 6 other companies, and we were pitching a multi-million-dollar contract to a government agency. And, so I'm all dressed up for my Skype meeting, and I looked myself in the mirror, and I was about to do a power pose, and I was like, no, screw that. You were born for this. And there were a few expletives in there. But I just had to pump myself up. I knew that I was made for this and this lifestyle. It's in about, 3-4 months into it, I knew that I was exactly where I was supposed to be and able to make a difference.
Jen, you fire me up. That is so exciting. And I think there's an important point to be made here, right? Because people who are okay with or even happy working for the man or working 9 to 5 or punching a clock or whatever, there's nothing wrong with that. But it's for the people who know this is not for me. There's going to be a rub. And again, just like Jesse was mentioning, we experience this firsthand. I know it's like I have these wings and I want to soar so bad because the cage I'm in keeps trying to clip them. And so there's something there that's like, nah, I have to go explore this. I have to go explore this. There's no doubt that there's something there. And some people don't really have that feeling. They're just okay with, again, the security, I would call it, of knowing what to expect. Because entrepreneurship is a journey, it's an endeavor, it's many things. But I love the fact that you spend so much time or put in the energy and effort to yourself to really rely on those affirmations. It's so important when we're talking about building. Really, it's building resilience, right, and self-care and wellness. So kudos to you. I love it. Who's next?
Go, Travis. How about you, bud?
All right, man. Well, so for me, I think the challenge was that when I was in the military, I was always accused of my mouth always outranked me. And so the challenge I always dealt with was, I've had all these ideas and I was the great idea fairy on how to get things done. But, with the military, there's a lot of bureaucracy that's involved with it. So I think for me, making that leap was almost a natural feel for me. I would love to say I do all the affirmations and stuff, but I mean that for me, I just have a personality trait that it's kind of natural to me. And I think it's because I grew up in a different world. Like I came up through very humble beginnings and I was scared of everything. And then I had that epiphany that there's nothing to be scared of. You only have to worry about yourself. You just need to be confident in yourself and what you do, and what other people think. That's just what other people think. And you can't change that. And I think once I had that epiphany, now I have the mindset of, one of our fellow Veterans Edge things says it best when Larry Broughton says, I have the personality that I jump off the building and I build my plane on the way down. And that's been really effective for me. But I also have to, as I mentioned before, I have to surround myself by people that know how to catch when I drop things off the side, because I'm all full steam ahead. And I'm a big believer in just taking massive action. And so when I made the decision to retire and go all in, it just felt right. And I'm just a gut guy, and I just follow my gut, and that's the way I roll. And I'm a big proponent too of using personality tests to help guide and figure out who I need to surround myself by. So when I make these decisions and I make these leaps, I know I'm surrounded by the right people that can pick up the slack where I'm weak on. Because I jokingly say all the time, look, God had a lot of gifts in this world. Like some people can build things and fix things and can paint and can just have all these amazing things. I don't have any of that crap. All I have is a big hole in the middle of my face. So there's my money maker. That's all I got. So I have to use that and then surround myself and fix the other issues.
Well, we know for a fact that methodology is working out for you pretty well, Travis. So congratulations. And to touch on some stuff, I think this is going to go to one of our viewers' questions. I don't know, Joe, if you want to bring up Ernie Stevens on the screen. And so kind of put things in perspective, right? So yeah, Joe and I were both EBV graduates, thanks to the IVMF, so the Institute for Veterans and Military Families. We went to the Entrepreneurship Boot Camp for Veterans, right? So Joe went to Texas A&M. I went to Syracuse, and our eyes opened after that. And we've kind of been around, and in the circle, we all went to this conference. And as Travis was just mentioning before we went on the show, was the actual last conference that anyone was able to go to. Literally, when we came back home, America was shut down, like bam.
Mm-hmm.
So all of us left on a super high as entrepreneurs, and we'll probably get into that in a second. We came back down. So all of us are associated with the IVMF. So thanks for mentioning that, Ernie. Really good question. All right, Chris, why'd you do what you did? Which you made a fantastic choice, obviously, but why did you do it?
Wow, I have so much I want to talk about. I did it personally because, to Joe's point, it was a calling. I don't think entrepreneurship is for everyone, and I don't think entrepreneurship is for most people. And that's not a judgment. I think it's a realistic warning to folks that look before you leap a little bit, because I think there's a lot of hype and mythos around being an entrepreneur as being this sexy opportunity to take on the world, And that's great. But the reality of entrepreneurship is the grind, is slogging through, especially nowadays. I mean, you talk to a lot of small business owners who may cease to exist. It is really hard. You're making decisions that affect your family. They affect the families of your employees. So I did it to answer your question directly. I did it to have freedom and flexibility in my own career, but it was a calling that I was not going to fail at no matter what. So I was willing to do what it took. 15 years later, I'm still sitting here. It is certainly not for everyone, and that's okay. It shouldn't be for everyone. And I also like to say, I think there's a difference between being an entrepreneur and being self-employed. Again, neither is better or worse, but I think we need to acknowledge if you've got a job and you've got your $1 million idea, you need to kind of make an explicit decision to yourself. Do you want to be self-employed? Do you want to be the person baking the pies in your bakery? And that's fine. Or do you want to own the bakery and run it? At which point you're not baking the pies, you're running and growing your venture. Other people are baking the pies. Again, two different ways to approach things. But I think a lot of folks think that, because they love to bake pies, they're going to be the best pie baker, and they try to do all of it, and they can't do all of it successfully and sustainably.
Yeah, I love that. And that's actually one of the things that Chris has been helping me with, is because I have tried, with Jesse, it's like, hey, there's nothing that the two of us cannot figure out or do. And I have the security of having a partner in Jesse to help me get to places that I wouldn't maybe be comfortable going. But that's an issue, right? Because I'm trying to master everything, and we know how that saying goes. But so I'm learning to let go of things that I know are out of my strength, or things that I'm not really sure, or just too time consuming to figure out. But also when I'm thinking about growth, it's what exactly do I want to be? And I spent a lot of time thinking about what the future looks like for me, what I want it to look like for me, and then what I'm going to have to do to kind of navigate that chasm. So, but what all of you are saying, and I want to transition slightly into mindset specific things. I read a great quote from Simon Sinek just this morning, actually. And he said, always plan for the fact that no plan ever goes according to plan. And so I think specifically when we're talking about entrepreneurship, that just hearing that, whether it's the first time you heard it or you've heard it before, I'm sure something comes up for you when you hear that. So talk to me specifically about your mindset in being the entrepreneur, and knowing that, yes, just because I have a plan, just because I have a goal, I can't expect that it's going to go as planned. And then how do I deal with those things specifically from a mindset?
Well, I can jump on that one. I think for me, the mindset is, again, not to kind of beat a dead horse, but I mean, my big thing is I still keep a lot of my military mindset when it comes to how I run my business and my day-to-day. For example, I have my day job, if you will. My primary duty is my real estate business, the Winfield Group. And at the same time, I'm also a partnership in the first national military-centric real estate company in the country, and that's Century Residential. Now, that's just my day job. Now, just like in the military, though, you had your primary duty and then you had your collateral duty, right? Well, my collateral duty, or my philanthropic desires, is I pour into this nonprofit called the Enlisted Leadership Foundation, where I'm the vice president of, and that's just my personal rewarding. And so from my mindset, I love pouring into things that I'm passionate about. I've tried a lot of different things, and I think that's the key to entrepreneurship and being happy in it, is that you have to do what you love to do. You don't want to shove a square peg into a round hole. You got to really love what you're doing. I love serving veterans in the real estate space, so I'm passionate about that. I love education, so that's why I love public speaking. That's why I do my podcast. I love teaching leadership from my experience in the military, and that's where the Enlisted Leadership Foundation is. So I think it's just a matter of setting your mind. And like I said, nothing's really changed. I have my primary duty, I have my collateral duties, I have my civic duties. So I just still kind of maintain the same thing. The biggest difference now is I don't have the bureaucracy of the military telling me what I can and can't do. I can control the dialogue now. And if I don't like something, I change it. And that's, I think, the biggest key is I love having the ability to change things to what I know works for me, my family, and all the people that are in my sphere.
I love it, Travis.
Who's up?
I don't remember what the original question was, but Travis, you got me thinking. Having military experience can be an enormous asset in whatever veterans choose to do, whether it be entrepreneurship or not. I think that said, there's also some potential over-reliance on things that we're comfortable with. So having a very insular network. When you're in the military, especially on active duty, all your friends are in the military on active duty. All your connections are in the military on active duty, which is wonderful. But it's also, if you overplay that strength, can be difficult to overcome when you transition out. So something that really is important from my perspective is making the time and making the effort to engage with your community like Travis does, right? Get out there, do things that you're passionate about, that you have energy to support, and do things that help you expand that network. That network is going to be invaluable to you, regardless you're going to entrepreneurship or whatever you do. I mean, it's a fantastic asset that can't be taken away from you if you invest in it.
Awesome, Chris. Even though you didn't know what the question was, you kind of answered it anyway, right? Because the question was about mindset, and you guys are kind of all addressing it. Because some of the things that we talk about when we teach how you build resilience, right? What do you focus on wellness is serving the community and then being aware of your circle, right? So expanding that circle, Joe and I are trying to live our lives in thirds, that something that, Larry Braun's mentioned before, a third of the people need to be somewhere that you aspire to be. We got you guys, right? The people that have quote unquote made it, they're making things happen. People that are your peers, they're kind of right where we are. We're walking the same path. And then along the line, we're helping people, right? The last third is people that are kind of where you were and you want to bring them to where you are. And we're really doing that and expanding your circle. If you're not just keeping it with other veterans that you served with, that's absolutely going to help. And Jen, you talked a lot about it already because you're doing self-talk and journaling. Why is mindset so important to you?
So for me, it's because of my work ethic. I think I'm like a go-getter. I'll grind for 18 hours a day just working, and so it's important for me. Mindset's important for me to keep a healthy mind. Make sure that I'm working on the right things, of course. So I set my priorities, and that's all part of my it's all part of my journaling practice. I feel like we need to talk about that a little bit more. But anyways, my priorities are obviously my children, my family, working with veterans, my education, and my business, and not necessarily in that order. Those are like all of my top priorities. And so I have to make time for each of those things if I'm going to be happy. So keeping my mindset in check helps me to keep my work ethic, keep my drive, make sure that I'm able to perform at my best every single day.
Jen, don't you worry. We are going to address journaling and self-care and the different methods that we all use because it's super, super important. I heard something, it's probably a couple weeks ago, and I started actually teaching it to police cadets, but it was this simple little ditty of Gebby, and it's just Gebby. And if you start every morning in gratitude and then exercise, whatever that means, but 15 to 30 minutes of just moving your body, even if it's a walk, and then breakfast because you need some type of substance to start your day. And then the why is you. And that just means give yourself some priority, whether that's journaling, whether that's planning your day, whatever it is, read something, learn something, listen to something. But if you set I think the first 30 minutes of your day is essentially your compass for your day. And it sets the intention. And so whether or not you're going to find true north depends on how you wake up and what you do within that first 30 minutes. And then our days are our life in many, right? I've heard this as well, that, how we live our day is how we live our life. And so having those micro habits, if you will, it's super, super important because again, it just sets your day on intention. And so I love what you guys all are saying. Jesse, what do you think?
Absolutely. And I love where the direction is going. So Joe mentioned um, that the why part, right? I know a lot of entrepreneurs spend their time just absorbing content. They're reading books, they're listening to podcasts, watching YouTube streams, they're going to mentors. What have been the most beneficial for you, and what are you reading, watching, listening to right now to help you? I know this would be very interesting to our viewers. Chris.
Yeah, it's a great question. I wish I was consuming more content than I'm creating, but I'm kind of in a role of creating more content than I consume at this point. But I think that is the answer to the question, Jesse. Creating content forces me to take a perspective, forces me to think critically, forces me to absorb information through all aspects of my life, and boil it down to my own perspective. So I think that's what I do. That's maybe not what everyone should do or what everyone's comfortable with doing. I think as veterans, we're speaking about that space specifically, and we're speaking about entrepreneurship. There are a ton of fantastic resources available out there, and they are a Google search away. If you are interested in entrepreneurship and you are a veteran, you should be looking at organizations like the Institute for Veteran and Military Families. You should be looking for various grant programs, especially right now. I just read that Facebook is giving out $20 million in grants to women, minority, and veteran-owned businesses to help them through the pandemic hardships that they're facing. There are a ton of resources out there, but people are not going to hand you things on a silver platter. You need to get your rear end in the arena, and you need to make it happen.
I think that sounded like it was meant for me and Joe on that last statement there. We're going to take it to heart, Chris.
You guys have both feet in the arena.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Travis.
Well, man, I tell you, it's I'm kind of a couple of different fronts. I consume. I do agree 100% with Chris. I'm a big believer. If you teach it once, you learn it twice. So I'm a big proponent of learning it and then being an evangelist, putting it out there, and then you learn it even more. At the same token, one of the things we do, like I said, with our nonprofit to help create content is we're doing a unique structure in the fact that when we're teaching to the active duty folks, we're not only bringing in military leaders to teach leadership, we're bringing in civilian CEOs to teach it too, because we don't want that group mindset. So I think that everybody knows something you don't, whether it be the person sweeping the floors or the CEO of a company. Everybody knows something you don't. So I like to really bring people in. So we bring CEOs to teach like a civilian mindset of leadership, to military leaders who bring in the military mindset of leadership to really boil it down. And I think lastly, this is more from a personal standpoint. I really resonate with Gary Vee and Tony Robbins. One of the books I'm listening to right now is Tony Robbins' Money Master of the Game. And that's just remember I said one of my big things in the beginning was that one of my shortfalls is knowing financial health. And there's just a lot of great nuggets in that book, but that one takes a while to get through. So I'm an audio. I listen and learn via audio, not reading as much. So the audio book I think sits around like 24 hours of content. So it's taken a little while to chew through that.
Very cool stuff. I know I can speak for Joe and I when I say that. I'll just say I know I do. I miss teaching. I really, really do. And that was like the bread and butter of our business for a while there. But I miss it. I miss being in front of people and just sharing knowledge. So during this time, I've just been trying to catch up on the latest science and what's going on. Joe still has some opportunities to do it, right, in his day job and through here. But I know exactly what you mean. I'm gonna use that again. Teach it, you learn it twice. Cool. What about you, Jen?
Teach it once, learn it twice.
I like it. Jen.
Well, so as far as content that I'm consuming, when we got home from the conference and the world shut down and everything, I immediately started to, I have to prescribe to all of the webinars, and I have to hold on a second, buddy. Okay. Sorry about that.
I love that. I love it.
Okay.
I apologize for that.
Oh, no, it's fine. What was I saying? Okay, so I was attending all of the COVID webinars, and they were every day, and I was immediately overwhelmed with all of the content. So I started to really filter my content, right? Just go back to what I know. I like to read marketing books because I don't know, or I don't know anything about marketing. I'm just going to say it. So I read all the books, Story Brand and Marketing Made Easy. Those are my two top picks right now. I read mindset books. I've read all of Jocko's books. Big fan. And my all-time favorite, I think, is Elizabeth Gilbert, Big Magic. It's about living creatively. And one of the funniest things is that, like, I never thought of myself as a creative person. I think of myself as an analytical person. I read her book, and the main like the tagline is going beyond fear and into your creativity. And she says to create whatever causes a revolution in your heart, whether there's one member of your audience or a million. It doesn't matter, because it came from your heart. And then and if you tie that back into the military mindset, and one of the laws of combat, or whatever was in the military or Marine Corps tactics manual, is like the first law of combat is to be creative. And so that resonated with me. So learning how to be creative, intentionally setting my mindset, and then also reading books about things that I don't know about, like marketing.
Thank you, Jen. I appreciate it. And thanks, Jonathan Norton, for your recommendation here, Peter Thiel's 0 to 1. You guys put out some really good advice, suggestions. And for those of you that subscribe to the YouTube channel, I just did a video a couple days ago, and I quoted Socrates, and I love it because it fits in here just a different way. But it says, I cannot teach anybody anything. I can only make them think. And essentially that's what we're doing, right? So we're talking about providing content, consuming content, being on the giving or receiving end of content. But it's important to remember that learning is an individual experience, right? And so we can put something out that two people are going to perceive incredibly differently. And so our job is not necessarily to teach anyone anything. It's simply to open their mind to think. And I think just like Elizabeth Gilbert's Big Magic, that's essentially what happened with Jen and your experiences. You think of yourself as one way, but I would say very few people in this world actually know who they are. We know the thing that we've created, but we actually don't know who we are. So many people, again, because we spend so much time putting on our personas, putting on this idea of our identity, of what it should be. And it really creates confusion. And so the more time we spend in reflection, the more time we spend digging into like the depths of our soul, one, the more scary it can become, but two, it really is revealing. So thank you all for sharing those bits of wisdom and information. I love it. I'm just going to say real quick too, while I know all three of you individually, to some degree, I'm like, as you're talking, I'm having this like feeling overwhelm me of just pride, as if Jesse and I curated this, like, I don't know. I'm feeling really, really good about this group, and I'm feeling excited. I just stood up when Jen was talking, and I was like, I love this episode. So anyway, I just wanted to share my excitement with you. Thank you so much.
I couldn't agree more. Right. One, I'm proud to know you, to be associated with you guys and to learn from you guys. And I know for all of us, on a positive note here, I think the best is yet to come from all of our organizations. So I'm really looking forward to that. As we're getting close here, there's something that we always do at the end of the show. But before I do that, I want to first say thank you for being on. And it's kind of interesting, right? We decided to have veterans on this weekend. It symbolizes something. And I'm grateful. I'm feeling grateful right now for your service and for the significance of Memorial Day, right? Freedom isn't free, and it never will be. And so I'm thankful for that. And you guys are still serving your communities in different ways. So thank you. And before we leave, I'd like each of you, as we always do, to give one takeaway. If there's anything that you were thinking right now, feeling right now, want to get off your chest, or something that you want to leave the audience with, I invite you guys to do it now. And I know this question always puts people on the spot, so I'll let you guys pick who wants to go first. So if you Want to say something? Just jump right in.
Oh, you know me, I'm not afraid to talk. So look, I'll just leave you with this. And this goes back to what I've heard kind of resonated with everybody here is this journey that we're on. It's just that. It's a journey. And, you know, I can leave you with a couple of quotes. I'm a big proponent of quotes because they just resonate. Is, you know, Tony Robbins once said, you know, you got to start exchanging expectations for appreciation, right? Because that way you can sit back and enjoy the journey. Because if you're just focused only on your goals and you're not stopping to smell the roses, then what is it all for? If you always have your head down, you got to stay up and enjoy the ride and make sure you create balance in life with your family and your work. And then I would lastly leave you with the fact that, you know, when we were talking about all these different content, everything you're doing, just remember that Confucius once said, "He who chases two rabbits catches none." So focus on what you're trying to get accomplished. Try not to, you know, follow the squirrels and chase squirrels. Focus on that one rabbit, catch it, and then move on to the next one, and you'll find you'll be a lot more productive. So that's all I have.
Love it. Thank you, Travis. Hey, real quick, while you're still rapping, talk a little bit about your podcast and like where people can find you.
Yeah, great. Thanks, man. So I just released my new podcast 2 weeks ago. It's called The Winfield Way, Military Strategies for Leadership and Entrepreneurs. And, you know, I'm really excited. As you can see, that's my prodigal son, Sebastian. This guy is 20 years old, has joined a business. He played collegiate golf at San Jose State, then made the decision that he felt drawn to the entrepreneur spirit at a very young age. And so he's kind of following in the business footsteps. And so he's my co-host on the show. And we talk about everything from, you know, him interviewing me on my challenges growing up to I interview him where he shows his challenges as a young entrepreneur getting into business. So we do an episode about failure, being failure is life's greatest teacher. And then I even had a chance to interview you two young gentlemen on the podcast. So you actually get, I think in a couple episodes, you'll actually be able to hear Joe and Jesse on my podcast as well. So a lot of great stuff coming with that. And then we're also producing another podcast that's not been released yet through the Enlisted Leadership Foundation. At least, you know, if you think the acronym is ELF, so we're starting ELF Talks, which is another podcast we'll be producing. So thanks for letting me do that shout out. So go download. It's on all the platforms, iTunes, Spotify, and let me know what you think.
Thanks, Travis. Appreciate it.
Awesome, man. So, and we're looking forward to that. But going back to some of the stuff you mentioned, I know I'm very guilty of that, right? So I have a lot of rabbits I'm chasing, and sometimes I don't stop and smell the roses. Sometimes I don't stop and appreciate. I'm just like go, 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 go. And Joe reminds me all the time that, you know, you got to take a step back and enjoy. So I'm trying to do that and focus on the people that matter most. That's okay. Thanks, Elizabeth. One of the rabbits is grant writing, but we won't get into that now. Jen, what about you?
So today I'm left with feelings, definitely a big pot of mixed emotions. I'm feeling immense amounts of gratitude. I'm so happy to be sharing this platform with the four of you. I'm sad that the five of us are not in person with a beer in hand and, you know, laughing and joking, because these conversations are so much more powerful in person. And at the same time, I'm grateful that we have a platform. We can continue to do things like this. So as the year continues, my goal is to continue building relationships and strategic partnerships throughout my company. So conversations like this are exactly aligned with my goals. This is my rabbit. This is me catching my rabbit right now. So thank you guys for bringing me on today.
It's our honor, Jen. And I'm reminded, right? Like I'm looking at this group. You talked about it. We were having these conversations that last night in Dallas. We'd had one beer or more, maybe, right? And I left there feeling like we're going to take over the world. And I'm thankful in the fact that even with everything that's happened, we're still growing and learning. You guys are still being successful. So defining success depends on you. And I'm very fortunate. So thanks for joining us and for all your knowledge that you brought us today. Chris, what you got?
Yeah, thanks, Jesse. My mind is racing. We've covered so much ground today, kind of really focusing around veterans, it being Memorial Day and entrepreneurship, you know, there's a lot of paths people can take in their life. And if you're following your passion, I think I keep calling back to a speech by Teddy Roosevelt called Citizenship in a Republic. So sometimes commonly known as the man in the arena speech. One thing about military folks that has always impressed me is regardless of what path they're on, they're in with both feet. They are in the arena. And I think that's a really important lesson right now for everyone, whether you're a veteran or not. There's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of people suffering. And what we don't need right now are cheerleaders. What we need are people who have both feet in the arena and they're making things happen. So whatever making things happen means to you, get out there and do something. I think that's the best way we can honor those who have come before us, and the best way we can kind of honor the people who maybe never made it home on this Memorial Day. Well,
Chris, thanks for that. Excellent. Thank all of you for doing this again. I can't say thank you enough, so I'm just going to keep repeating it. And Joe, what's your final thought?
Thanks, Jesse. And again, thank you, Jen, Travis, and Chris, everyone, for taking the time out of your holiday weekend, essentially where we all are celebrating the work that we've done, the service we've provided, to take a little bit of time out to spend it with us. I really, really appreciate it. Again, I appreciate your friendships, your partnerships, the relationships that we have. I would just end with this, you know, life is only as good as your mindset. How we think matters so much. And if you are someone who's stressed out, struggling, feeling depressed, feeling lonely, feeling isolated, just remember that those are your thoughts, and your thoughts create your emotions. It's not the other way around. Many people think that our emotions create our thoughts, and they just don't. So sit with that. Think about what it means for you. You can change the landscape anytime you decide, and just maybe switch the lens. It could possibly even save your life. So thank you again. It's been a real honor serving with all of you doing this today. I really appreciate it. Jesse, thank you for all you do. For everyone that tuned in, thanks. For those of you watching on the replay, we still see you. Thanks a lot. We'll be checking in next week, guys. Thank you.